Zoom keeps Zoom keeps moving. Okay. Um, so I just talked about Shavuot before I press record. I'm not going to repeat everything I said. Okay. It's 7 weeks, 50 days after Passover, commemorates receiving the Torah and the grain harvest. Okay. Um, as a linkage again of just the Passover freedom, Shavuot responsibility, right? Liberty, responsibility, the freedom, law. Like these are poles in which like the moral universe is sort of contained between those two poles. And an axis, which freedom without responsibility is meaningless. Responsibility without freedom is tyranny, right? So you need both of those elements. The two festivals, in that sense, play off each other as the grain grows in the spring and then ripens in the late spring. Okay, as we go from Passover to Shavuot. Shavuot is one day holiday. In the diaspora, we celebrate it for 2 days. Um, there's a custom that's developed as a holiday celebrating the receiving of the Torah it's a Torah celebratory holiday, and so we have a custom to stay up all night long on the first night of Shavuot to study Torah until the sunrise. Um, Not everyone does this, but it's really fun if you can do it. I'm sorry. Mhm. At least stay up a little bit later than you might otherwise. Here in this neighborhood, we join together with some of the other congregations in the neighborhood, and we all come together. We learn these classes taught by educators and rabbis and members of the community, and it's really a really fun evening and morning. And then we have a 5 a.m., 6 a.m., whatever morning service, and then I go to sleep for the rest of the day. Yeah. Um, so that's Shavuot. And and yeah, so it's and like other holidays, we make kiddush. There's motzi. So there's a holiday meal with challah and kiddush, to beginning of the sanctification of the day. Questions about Shavuot? There are customs to eat dairy foods on Shavuot. No one really knows why. There are a lot of interesting all sorts of the fact when you have like a custom with like four or five different reasons, it means that none of them is probably like really true. One, we're commemorating receiving the Torah, and so when our ancestors at Sinai got the Torah, we didn't have any kosher utensils at first, so we had to eat dairy because we didn't have it. That's a little silly. I don't know. Maybe the custom originally was to have dairy first and then meat later at the same meal. It's a way to show our devotion to the Torah by following its rules in a complicated way, maybe. Other explanations. Okay, but that is one Shabbat. Exactly, 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 exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Um, 12. No, okay. Anything else about Shavuot? Questions, comments about Shavuot? Okay, really fun holiday. Okay. Um, Number 12. Okay, so Yom Tov, these holidays, the Torah holidays, the Torah forbids work on these holidays just like it forbids work on Shabbat. So from sunset on Friday until dark on Saturday, it's absolutely forbidden by Torah law to do any type of creative labor, as we discussed for several weeks earlier. Okay, same is true for the biblical holidays in which it says you shall do no work on these days. So Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Pesach, first days and last days of Pesach, Shavuot. However, the Torah makes one exception and says, Ach yachel nefesh, things that are necessary for you to eat, those things alone you can do on Yom Tov. So Yom Tov is different. So Yom Tov, these festivals are different from Shabbat in that of the 39 prohibited categories of labor on Shabbat, but those things that are necessary for our meals are permitted on Yom Tov. So specifically, that means we can cook and we can transfer a fire. We can't light a fire, you can transfer a fire. So if you have a candle burning, like a 24-hour candle, you can use it to light a match, to light another candle, use it to light your stovetop, right, with your burner or something, your gas burner, you can from an existing flame. Or if you have a pilot light, you can just, the old-fashioned stove with a pilot light that was always on, you could, turn it up and light the flame, and then you could cook whatever you roast, cook, grill, whatever. Any form of cooking is permissible on Yom Tov. Um,
How would that work with like electric stove tops now?
Electric, that'd be a little challenging. Electric stovetop, you would maybe put on a timer, you'd leave it on, or you depending on the type of stove. But if you could have a little like a little hot burner on a timer, and it goes on for a couple hours, and you could fry an egg for breakfast, or I don't know, whatever it is that you wanted. But any type of the cooking per se is first. We still don't turn on and off electronic devices. We don't manipulate electronic devices, just like on Shabbat. But the cooking itself is permissible. So we use our Instant Hot on Yom Tov. Okay, it's those little things that you're talking about.
No.
Oh, they're great. It's like a little appliance that you insert by your sink and it for like making tea and just it's like a hot water comes out instantly from here. Just heats the water very fast so you can it's like a built-in it's an instant kettle. So you just push the button and water comes in. This is not new technology. It's not new technology. Yeah.
We're all just stunned. A lot of things, but no, I like that.
It's funny. We moved into our apartment in Chicago in 2013 and had one, and I had never used one before, but we got really used to it, and we were not going to do that when we came here, so we installed one. Yes,
When Shabbat leads straight into a Torah holiday,
yeah,
so you can't cook on Shabbat.
correct.
But say then after Havdalah when
Yeah,
you can cook then.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So Shabbat ends, Yom Tov begins. You can put raw food into your oven. You can make a cup of tea, or whatever, make some coffee in your French press, whatever, all the things that we talked about for all those weeks about cooking and the heating and all of that is permissible on Yom Tov, okay? Because the Torah says, and you can also carry. And carrying is assumed to be, for whatever reason, carrying is associated with cooking, and so you can also carry on Yom Tov. No need for an Eruv, no need for any Shabbos belts, anything like that. You can carry out right on Yom Tov. And once even if it's not an Ochel Nefesh, food related, you can transfer fire also for the sake of adding light into a room, right? Even though, right, so there's once the Talmud says once it was made permissible for the sake of cooking, it was then also made permissible for the sake of any other needs you have that's for your holiday. So you can, with the old-fashioned lights, you could whatever, like a lamp, you could light your lamp from an existing flame, and if you wanted to have light it's not really so much relevant anymore, but that's what you would do for Yom Tov as well. Yeah.
Several years ago when it was that, getting an email about all those sort of very complicated rules about how do you do your cooking leading into, like essentially a like 3-4 day.
So it would be 4 days. They came 4 days. I don't think we have in our calendar. 3 days is an issue. So if Shabbat, I mean, last year Shabbat led into the first night of Passover,
Yeah.
and that's unusual and that raises extra challenges because you have to destroy your chametz on the day before Passover. But if it's Shabbat, you can't really do that, so you have to do things earlier, and that's kind of complicated. And you can't prepare on Shabbat for after Shabbat, so it's a little challenging to get your Seder plate. That's unusually that's particularly unusual. But Shabbat going into Yom Tov is not all that unusual, and so Shabbat ends, and then I mean, Shabbat into Shavuot happens not infrequently. It's not so bad. So Shabbat ends, it gets dark, and then it's Shavuot. And so once it's Shavuot, so it means your dinner's very late because you start cooking once it gets dark. So Shavuot is in May, so it gets dark at 8:45. So at 8:45 you can begin cooking your dinner. So that's a little bit late.
Yeah.
Or you have it made and you heat it up. It's in the fridge and you take it out and you put it. You can have soup and put it on the fire, right? You can do all things that you can't do on Shabbat. You can do on Yom Tov.
So, but this year, I guess the first day of Shavuot is Friday and the second day is Saturday.
That's fine. So that means that if it overlaps, then the restrictions of Shabbat supersede the leniencies of Yom Tov. So if they coincide, the extra restrictions of Shabbat overwhelm Yom Tov. This year, Passover though is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So we have 2 days of Passover, 2 days when you're allowed to cook, and then Shabbat you can't cook. But you have a lot of leftovers to eat, so it's fine. Yeah, yeah. Um, so far so good. We're more or less you with me. Okay. Anyway, it gets more complicated. Yeah. You're only allowed to cook on Yom Tov for a Yom Tov meal.
Meal.
So you can't cook on Yom Tov for after Yom Tov. Okay, so sorry.
Yeah, so it's-
One sec, one sec, one sec. So, um, which means that let's say, first day, so Passover begins Wednesday night. So Wednesday night, so you cook on Wednesday, you're getting ready for Passover. Wednesday night, you sit down at the table, you make kiddush, you have the Seder, you eat your meal. In theory, you could be cooking that meal at night also, like maybe, but maybe what you sort of are doing, you're doing things that night during the Seder. You have your soup is on the fire, right? And you're stir, which you couldn't do on Shabbat, right? And during the right, maybe you're, you know, whatever it is. Okay, so you could be cooking and or heating things in ways you couldn't do on Shabbat. Okay, okay. Then it's Thursday. Thursday is the first day of Passover. You could cook your lunch from scratch if you wanted to, or you could, okay, again, you could use an existing flame to ignite your barbecue grill, and you could grill yourself your lunch on your Yom Tov lunch. Okay. Then now it's Thursday afternoon. You can't cook Thursday afternoon for Thursday night because the day ends at sunset. So Wednesday night, sunset Wednesday to sunset Thursday is day one of Passover, and all your cooking has to be for that day. Once it gets to sunset, then you're cooking or dark on Thursday night. Now you can cook for Thursday night and Friday. You can't cook on Wednesday or even Wednesday night for or Wednesday or Thursday afternoon for Thursday night. You can't cook on 7 p.m. on Thursday for 9 p.m. on Thursday because that's from the first day to the second day of Yom Tov. You can't do. That's complicated. To cook from Yom Tov to Shabbat is also not okay unless you make an Erev Tavshilin, okay, which is that, okay? When Yom Tov goes into Shabbat, you start your Shabbat cooking on Wednesday. There's a special bracha you say, you designate this food. This is for my Shabbat meal, even though I'm making it right now, I'm setting it aside on Wednesday. And then the cooking that you do on Friday can also be for Shabbat. All right, and that's the Erev Tavshilin is the ritual that allows it. It's described. The Siddur has a page on how to do it. The Haggadah has a page on how to do it, and that's only when Yom Tov starts on Wednesday. When you go Wednesday, Thursday into Friday, into right into Shabbat. Okay.
Yeah.
I suspect you're nodding, but you're not really believing. I don't know. I don't trust you.
In progress.
Okay. Okay. Just say it.
A few more explanations.
It's really quite simple once you. Okay.
Feels like about Thursday, like when you say about like
The sundown to sundown.
yes,
Yeah, that's where it
that's
lost
when
me.
it's getting
Days in Judaism start at sunset and end at sunset, right? So the first day of Passover begins Wednesday night. As the sun sets on Wednesday, Passover begins. And the first day of Passover is Wednesday night until Thursday night, or sunset Wednesday until nightfall Thursday. 8 p.m., let's say 8 p.m. Or no, probably 7:15 Wednesday until 8:15 on Thursday. That's the first day of Passover. Second day of Passover is 8:15 Thursday until 7:15 Friday. Okay. And so you should only cook on each day for its own day. Exactly. Exactly. If you make a little extra, we say, well, you can make extra in case guests come, because you never know. The last minute guests could show up at your house. You want to be able to feed them. Okay. Okay.
So how does that apply to leftovers though? Like if it's just straight up not eaten?
That's fine. You
Okay.
don't have to eat everything. Just the cooking has to be for, so you couldn't, look, so if you make it, yeah, so I don't know. There's some like if you're gonna like make a giant vat of soup and some of it you'll eat today, some you eat tomorrow, that's fine. But if you're gonna make individual, I'm gonna make stuffed chicken cutlets.
Yeah, like 3 different dishes and like, oh, this one's gonna be used for.
That's no
2 days
good.
from now.
That's not good. Yeah. Or I'm gonna make or I'll make individual stuffed chicken cutlets. Example of something you might make. I'm gonna wrap spinach, whatever, wrapped in a chicken cutlet, and I'll make one is per serving. So I'll make 5 of them for Wednesday first Seder, and I'll make 5 of them for the second Seder, and I'll cook them all. And that would be a problem because I'm cooking individual portions, some for today, some for tomorrow, with that intention. That you couldn't do.
Meal prepping.
You can cook it all. You can meal prep before the holiday starts. You have Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all those days. Everyone's going to be cooking, like crazy and putting stuff in their fridge. And you just can't do the cooking on Yom Tov itself unless it's for that day of Yom Tov. What sometimes people do, and one would, let's say on the first day of Yom Tov, I'm going to take the soup out of the fridge or out of the freezer and I'll thaw it and I'll heat it on my stovetop because you're allowed to Right, okay. And I'm going to serve some to my 8-year-old child at 6 p.m. I have to defrost the entire, it's a big block of frozen soup in my freezer. I have a big tub of chicken soup in my fridge. I'll pour it all into the pot. I'll put on the burner. It'll get nice and hot. And at 6 p.m., I'll feed it to my 8-year-old. And then at 9 p.m., it's ready for dinner for the second day of Yom Tov. You can because I'm serving it for the first day of Yom Tov, and it happens that it's left over for the second day for that night. Okay, and that's also fine. Um, okay, one additional like refinement, let's just say, which is maybe relevant for some people here or some people again, the Torah says you can't, Yom Tov, these holidays are just like Shabbat, can't do any work, no work of any kind can be done except for that which you should be able to eat. We understand that to mean for Jews to eat a Yom Tov meal. That is what this is for. So that means you can't use it for a non-Yom Tov meal. It also is not for someone who isn't Jewish. It's a Jews eating a Yom Tov meal is a specific like reason why the Torah permits this. And so there are restrictions also on cooking for someone who isn't Jewish or for someone who's Jewish if it's not going to be for a Yom Tov meal. Somebody who is in a process of conversion is sort of like quasi, becoming part of the Jewish family. And so we sort of get around it with some of these. We'll just make a lot of food and everyone gets to eat, but we're not like counting out individual portions for you and you and you and you and you, and in which case it really should only be for because again, the Torah is saying like really nothing should be done except the exception is Jews need to be able to eat a Yom Tov meal. So if someone's not Jewish, they don't need a Yom Tov meal. And if somebody is Jewish and it's not for Yom Tov meal, they also cooking shouldn't be done for them. Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay. So what if a hungry, non-Jewish stranger shows up at your door? In fact, on Passover, don't we invite them?
Right. So if somebody comes up asking you for food, you can absolutely feed them. And if somebody, if a Jewish guest brings along a non-Jewish friend or relative, you can also feed them as well. The issue would be the cooking on behalf of the right? In other words, and the Talmud said maybe you shouldn't, it's extended invitation. There's a position that's not extending an invitation to somebody not Jewish to come to a Yom Tov meal because you extend an invitation, obviously you're going to cook extra food for them, right? But so that would be the concern. But if somebody just shows up, you haven't cooked for them, so it's no problem. You can serve them, right? It's just they can be sitting at the table with you. It's just the cooking is the problem. So as long as you didn't know they were coming, right, then that's fine.
So basically, you're not supposed to invite non-Jews to your Seder, I guess.
Correct. Again, there are.
I guess if you cook it all beforehand, you're okay for the first Seder.
So the Talmud says you can't extend an invitation to someone who isn't Jewish for a Yom Tov meal. That's the Talmudic position. That's the straight letter law. So there are exceptions. We can say, well, I'm not going to extend an invitation because of a concern that you'll cook for them. So one position is, well, if you don't cook for them, maybe it's fine. Maybe another position is, if they don't extend an invitation, just tell them what time dinner is served, right? I could say 8 p.m. I'll be sitting down to the Seder. And we'd love to see you there. Like that's not an invitation. That's just telling them information.
Yeah.
Okay. So that there are loopholes, that sometimes work. And I think I think those loopholes are appropriate for I think people in the process of conversion. But if it's going to be like, oh, I want to have share my traditions to my friends and neighbors, I would say there are other occasions that are maybe more appropriate for that than a Yom Tov meal, which is it's just about like intimacy. It's about like the metaphor of God and the Jewish people going through history together is described in the Song of Songs as a very intimate relationship. And so it's not necessarily something that is like, exposed and shared with everyone else. Questions, comments? Okay. Should we go on? Okay. I think you're lying that you understand this, but I can't prove it. I can't prove it. Okay. Okay. Number 13, Chol HaMoed. So there are two holidays that are extended over a period of days in the Torah, Passover and Sukkot, with Yom Tov, again, like these holiday days with work prohibitions at the beginning and at the end, and intermediate days called Chol HaMoed, the non-holiday days of the holiday. It's a straight sort of it's an oxymoron. Chol HaMoed, the non-sacred days of the holiday. It's a holiday, but so it's like a intermediate day. It has some ways it's like a holiday, in some ways it's not. So Passover, again, the first day and the seventh day of Passover are holidays with no work. The middle days you can do work. First day of Sukkot is a day without work. The eighth day is Shemini Atzeret, which is a day without work as well. In between, you can do work. And then diaspora, it's day 1 and day 2 of Passover, day 7 and 8 of Passover, the holidays, and day 3 through 6 are days you're allowed to do work. Although this year, day 3 is Shabbat. So it's only 4, 5, and 6 that you're allowed to do work. And 6, you're already cooking for this day 7. So it's really only 4 and 5 that you want to go take a trip somewhere or something, go to a museum, I don't know, get some work done. Okay, that's okay this year. And same with Sukkot. Again, day 1, day 2 of Sukkot are holidays. And then in the middle, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you can do work. One of those days is probably a Shabbat though. And then day 8 and day 9 are the holidays. There are restrictions on Chol Hamoed. It's supposed to be a festive, celebratory day. You can't just go and do whatever work you want. If you have vacation days, it's appropriate to take them during this time. The exceptions for what work you're allowed to do, you can do work that enhances your enjoyment of the holiday. So if it would be an enhance your enjoyment of the holiday to get in the car and drive to an amusement park, that's okay. If it enhance your enjoyment of the holiday to get in the bus and go downtown to a museum, you're allowed to do that in Chol Hamoed. And if you go, and so in fact, in the Northeast, on Chol Hamoed, museums and amusement parks and zoos are filled with Orthodox Jews. I mean, like Brooklyn empties during Chol Hamoed. There are hundreds and hundreds of Hasidim who come to Washington, D.C. during Passover. Okay, so like go to the Library of Congress and the museums and the whatever they're doing, hiking trips and the amusement park. Like, so it's really it's if you ever go to a baseball game, and during Chol Hamoed, it's like everyone there is eating matzah. Okay, so that because again, if it's for enjoying the holiday, then you can do it. Or if it's going to be a loss, like it's going to be some sort of like there's some business opportunity that you will lose, if you don't take advantage of it during Chol Hamoed, that's also permissible. So and that's and so maybe certain types of labor, you want to say you have fresh food to eat, you can I don't know do that kind of work or some business opportunity that won't be you can't postpone. You could do that kind of work, but it's possible. It's best to limit and kind of enjoy the week long spirit of the holiday. Kids, some like you try to avoid writing, don't do homework. I don't know that, that's yeah.
Oh, I'm assuming this was okay, these observant
Mm.
cousins of ours. Yeah, a death in the family right before Sukkot starts, Sukkot, right? Sukkot, like right before. And they held the funeral in Shulchan Aruch, and that's when we did it. Rather than on the whole.
Yes, you can do burials on Chol Hamoed. If someone dies, yeah, it's actually very interesting. We don't actually have anything in this, life cycle events in this curriculum. It's sort of a bit of we should add that to maybe we'll add life cycle events. But so if someone dies, if the burial takes place before Sukkot or before a holiday, and there's even 5 minutes of Shiva, the holiday cancels Shiva. So if you can get that burial before the holiday begins, and you have like a minute of Shiva, the holiday cancels the rest of the 7 days, and there's no Shiva. If that doesn't happen, the burial happens on Chol Hamoed, Shiva is suspended until the holiday ends. So you're just in limbo. So you do the burial, and then you observe the holiday like anybody else, and the holiday ends, and then you have 7 days of Shiva, which is kind of the worst. It's yeah. It's sort of like our collective experience takes precedence over the individual subjective experience of the, which is hard, which can be hard, but yeah. Other Chol Hamoed questions? Okay, great. Let's continue. Okay. Letter D. Fast days. Okay, these are fast days in order of the calendar that appear. Number 1, Tzom Gedalia. Tzom Gedalia is the 3rd day of the month of Tishrei, 3rd day of the year, day after Rosh Hashanah. It's a fast day to commemorate the assassination of Gedalia. That's why they named it after him. Gedalia, after the Babylonians destroyed the temple and took the leadership of Jerusalem captive, they put Gedalia to be the ruler in their place as sort of like the governor or something. And he was considered by some zealots to be a collaborator with the imperial occupying army of the Babylonians, and he was assassinated. And the Babylonians came back and killed a lot of people and exiled a lot more people, and it was really seen as a calamity that this happened. And so, to commemorate this moment of kind of as of zealotry and extremism and political violence, we have this fast day at the beginning of the year. Second, Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the 10th day of the year. That's a major biblical holiday, obviously. No labor, no, it's like the Sabbath of Sabbaths and incredibly intense day of prayer and atonement and introspection. Very elaborate liturgy. We're in the synagogue most of the day. In addition to the regular prayers, we add liturgical poetry and confessions, like 7 confessions, 1, 2, 2 at night, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, not 10 confessions over the course of the day. And very intense day of prayer. In addition to not eating and drinking, there are full prohibitions against all 5 forms of I don't know, like we afflict ourselves in 5 ways. Okay. Do we discuss it? We discussed Yom Kippur already, right? It's in the yeah. We discussed it among the joyous celebration. So it's interesting. It's both a fast day and a joyous. It's a joyous day because we have this incredible intimacy with God. We're living as though we're angels, and it's a fast day where it's like a very severe day. So it has both of those elements. Okay. Next, number 3, a Asarba 10th of the month of Tevet. That's usually in the winter at some point. This is I should say Som Gedalia and a Asarba Tevet, and except for Yom Kippur and Tisha B'av, except for number 2 and number 7, all the other fast days are half fast days. That means they begin when it gets before dawn and they last until dark. Whereas Yom Kippur and Tisha B'av are 25-hour fast days that fully. So Asarba Tevet in the winter, it's usually the shortest one because it's not so hard because the sun rises late and sets early. So it's not relatively easy, but again, no eating and drinking during the daytime, and then it ends. Okay. This is the anniversary of the day that the Babylonians like broke the siege of Jerusalem and or besieged Jerusalem as Jerusalem was destroyed. Tanit Esther is the day before Purim, so commemorating Esther's days of fasting before going to Achashverosh, which we're not at this time of year, but that's when we observe them. Tanit Esther is really linked to Purim in a very intimate way. It's like all of the anxiety and the fear and the vulnerability that is inherent in the celebration of Purim gets sort of pushed onto Tanit Esther, and then Purim is it's like the joyous part of the day, but that's okay. 5, Tani Bechorot. That's the fast of the firstborn. This is the firstborn who didn't die with the plague of the firstborn at the Exodus, fast the day before Passover. But we generally get out of this fast by any type of Sudat mitzvah, any type of mitzvah meal, overcomes the custom of fasting, and so we generally will complete a tractate of Talmud study on the day before Passover, and so that will be done publicly, and everyone can celebrate and eat together, and the firstborn are there as well, and they eat, and then they can eat the rest of the day, which I recommend because nobody wants to fast. It's like a very busy day. It's not a good to fast it. I did that once. It was not good. Yeah.
Well, it's never good.
Yeah, we left early in the morning to fly to cousins in Florida, so I didn't have time to go to shul that morning to like participate in this meal, and then so there I was, and then I landed, and everyone else it's like they're at the pool and they're drinking bliss and they're getting ready for the Seder, and so nice, and I was just like miserable and hungry and like really not, I was miserable for other reasons too that year. I was like but that okay. None of your business. Okay, I guess go. Okay, so I shared too much already. Okay. Number 6, Shivas Ber Tammuz, the 17th of Tammuz. This is a summer fast that commemorates the breaching of the walls of Jerusalem by the Romans in the year 70, and a bunch of other bad things that happened. This is a harder fast because it's generally a pretty long one because sunrise is really early and the sunset is really late, so it's a pretty long fast and in the summer, and it inaugurates the 3 weeks of mourning that culminate with Tisha B'Av, number 7, the 9th of Av, which is when the first and the second temple were destroyed. What a coincidence. And that's another day of all 5 forms of affliction, 25-hour fast from sunset to dark the next day. We sit on the floor. We recite the biblical book of Lamentations. We recite liturgical dirges, special poems composed for Tisha B'Av that are mournful and crying and bemoan all the terrible things that have happened in Jewish history. And between Shivasar, the 17th of Tammuz, and Tisha B'Av, these 3 weeks that extend, there are 3 weeks of no weddings, 3 weeks of no haircuts or shaving, 3 weeks of decreasing celebration. The 9 days leading up to Tisha B'Av, we don't drink wine and we don't eat meat. And so that's as our joy diminishes, as the summer gets heavy leading up to Tisha B'Av. It's a real drag, I'd say, on the mood in the middle of the summer. Until it, yeah, it's a sweaty time of year. It is. Yeah. Well, use deodorant, but like the beards it gets a little scruffy, and yeah, I mean, you're trying to, yeah, it's more, gotta connect to, you gotta feel sympathy and connect to the tragic elements of Jewish history. You're gonna look a little scruffy, so. If you need to shave for work, you can probably shave for work, and that's okay. Beseder.
Rabbi, on these half fasts,
Yeah.
When does it start in the morning?
It starts before it begins to get. There are different opinions. Some say in lenient position 30 minutes before sunrise, but we tend to be a little more strict and we start a little bit earlier, like before it begins to get light. So I mean, the most recent, the 10th of Tevet this past winter, I'm trying to remember when it started. The fast started at, I don't know, is it like 5:02 or something like that. So
Yes, there was
Oh.
5:32
oh, very
or
good.
5:37. It was one of those two.
Great. 5:37. So that's not so bad, right? 5:37. So you can get up at 5 and you have a cup of coffee and you make yourself a bowl of yogurt and some eggs or whatever, and then you go back to sleep, or you don't go back to sleep, but like whatever. But like I don't know. That's what I get up early in the morning and I have a cup of coffee and I have my breakfast, and then yeah.
I was really mad. I woke up at 5:45 and I was like, well, that's not happening.
Oh, did you not set an alarm, or you?
I was thinking about going to the other shul for the Megillah
Yeah.
for like
Yeah.
6 a.m. and I was like, okay, it's a 5-minute drive. I'll wake up right before straight there to work and like
All right, almost.
That
Okay.
was fine.
How was the meal reading there?
It was good. It was nice.
It's a sweet shul, right?
I met Rabbi's wife, the Reb.
Oh,
Rebnet,
Rebbitzin.
yeah, Rebbitzin, yes.
Yeah,
She's very sweet. She said if I needed anything, just let her know.
that's so sweet. She's very nice. Great, great, good. Okay, any other questions on the fast days? Okay, great. We have like 7 more minutes. Let's start Roman numeral 4. Should we do that? Okay, keeping kosher. All right. In the Torah says things you eat, things you can't eat. Okay, and then the rabbinic system builds a lot on that. So we're going to start simple and go elaborate. Torah has very clear rules for the. It's actually very interesting because the Torah has 3 different ways when it comes to the animals. The Torah gives us rules and examples. When it comes to the birds, the Torah gives examples but no rules. And when it comes to the fish, the Torah gives us rules but no examples. So we have 3 different ways of learning about information, right? Principles and examples, or examples and principles, or principles but no. Right? So animals. The Torah tells us the rules. What are the rules for kosher animals? Maybe we know some of them already. Kosher animals have to have what? What does that mean? Okay. Yeah, like that's a hoof. Like, okay, that's all has to be 2 parts. Okay, so 2, right. Right. But not, so what is not? What's an animal? So what's an example of, excuse me? Oh, no, we're not getting there. Yeah, just animals. I'm sorry. No paws. Good. What else? What's a hoof that's not cloven? Pigs have, good. What's another example of hooves that aren't cloven? Horses. Excellent. Good. What's another example of hooves that aren't cloven? Camels. Okay, great. All these are not kosher. What is it? What is a kosher animal that does have cloven hooves? Sorry, pigs actually do have cloven hooves. Pigs do have cloven hooves. Yes, that's a chew. What is chewing cud? You know what that means?
So they eat
Yeah.
they digest it.
Yeah.
They bring it back up.
Yeah, chew it again, and it goes to another side. Exactly, beautiful, exactly. So pigs do have the feet, but they don't have they don't chew cud. What are some kosher animals that both have both? There aren't that many. Cows. What else?
Deer.
Deer, good, very good. Yeah, bison, excellent. And buffalo, yeah, what else?
Lamb.
Lamb, good. Goat, excellent. That's about it. Oh, what about giraffes? Ah,
Is that even legal?
in some places. Exactly. So giraffes, they used to say that giraffes they are, but no one knows where to slaughter them because their necks are so long. That's actually not true. It's actually it makes it really easy to because you can anywhere. It's a very long neck. No, but so giraffes are kosher, but no one eats giraffe. But yeah, you would have to. Um, be a bit of a
African wildlife.
if it's split hooves and shoes. So all sorts of antelopes of various kind would be kosher.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say bison.
Yeah, bison are kosher. You can get kosher bison.
That's what I thought. Okay.
You can. Yeah, you can get kosher. Yeah. It's not readily available, but it's like not.
Debate about it.
No, it's totally, 100%.
It's like I don't see why not.
Totally, yeah, it's fine. Good. Okay, that's the animal. So the Torah actually lists examples of kosher and non-kosher animals, and it tells us the rules of what they have to do and gives us examples. So other non-kosher animals include rabbits and hyraxes and things like that. When it comes to birds, the Torah doesn't give us the general principles. It just gives us examples of kosher birds and non-kosher birds. And later on, the rabbis were able to give us some simanim, some signs, some general principles. Although in the last 400 years, we've shifted away from relying on those signs. When it comes to birds, we only eat birds with an established tradition that a Jewish community ate those species of bird. The whole vast area of scholarship is to try to determine what are the kosher birds or not and how broad those categories are. There are 55 varieties of quail. How do we know this one is kosher? A new chicken is introduced, how do we know it's kosher, etc. But basically, what are the kosher birds?
Where do you
Chicken.
turkey?
Turkey is great. Turkey just snuck in under the line because it has all the classic signs of a kosher bird. If you've seen a turkey, you know it looks like once you cook it. On the inside, a turkey looks just like a big chicken, right? Anatomically, it has all the signs of a kosher bird, but no Jewish community ate turkeys until until the 16th century. But it quickly became established as a kosher bird before we sort of pivoted to only eating birds with long established pedigrees as being kosher. But there's some who don't eat turkey. There were some influential European rabbis who said turkeys aren't kosher, and some of their descendants to this day don't eat turkey. That's not a very common position, but it is a position that exists. So turkeys don't eat good. What other kosher? What are the unambiguously kosher birds? I mean, nothing's unambiguous. Chickens, duck. What else? Chicken, duck. What else?
I eat so.
Okay. Geese are kosher. Quail is kosher. Partridges are kosher. Ostriches are not kosher. Nor are there eggs. What else? That may be. They're not. They don't have the signs of a kosher bird, and there's no tradition that a Jewish community ate them. Peacock is interesting. Peacock, there were Jewish communities that ate peacocks. We know that because we've seen illustrated wood carvings of peacocks on lists of illustrations of kosher birds from whatever, 18th century Italy, but I don't know, somehow not enough Jewish communities ate them. That tradition was lost. Peacocks and pheasants generally are not considered kosher. Jews don't eat them anymore, but quail, partridge, chicken, duck, and goose. The Muscovy duck is a native duck to the Americas. One of the first rabbinic pieces of scholarship that emerged from America in the mid-19th century concerned a Muscovy duck that was shipped by boat to Jerusalem for adjudication. And generally, we don't eat Muscovy ducks either.
Doves.
Doves are kosher. Good. Excellent. Thank you. Good. Doves are kosher. Fantastic. Yep. Thank you. Okay. And fish. What's the rules for fish? We'll finish soon. We'll wrap this up. Fins and scales. Good. What's an example of a fish that has fins but no scales? Eel, catfish. What else? Shark. Okay. Shark, catfish, eels have fins but no scales. What's an example of a fish that has scales but no fins? There aren't any actually. So it's very weird the Torah gives us those two criterion, even though only one of them is relevant. The scale one is relevant. So other non-kosher species, though, also shellfish and crustaceans and things like that are not kosher. So lobsters, crabs, mussels, clams, scallops, all those yummy things, not kosher. Okay. Kosher fish are salmon, codfish, and haddock, and many, many, many hundreds of fish. As long as it has scales, it's kosher. Okay, so it's very pretty.
Branzina.
Branzino, beautiful. Yeah, yeah, there are thousands and thousands of kosher fish species. They all have scales, okay? So this is the laws in the Torah, okay? These are the kosher species in the Torah. This part is pretty clear. If you just open up the Bible, you can get this information. Um, and the non-kosher parts of kosher animals is also actually in the Torah. You're not allowed to eat the forbidden fats of the animal, kosher animals, which are some of part of the hindquarters of the animals. And generally in modern America, they just cut the animal in half, and the second half goes to a non-kosher branch of the meatpacking plant, and the other parts, get sold for kosher meat. But once upon a time, there was and still there are a handful of people who are trained to remove the forbidden part, the sciatic nerve, and the forbidden fats of the kosher species, and remove those, and then you can get kosher sirloin right from the back part of the animal if somebody has done it. In Yiddish, it's called trebering. In Hebrew, it's called nikor. There's a guy, no, the guy who sells flour at the Tacoma Park Farmers Market. He also is trained in doing this, so he could. Okay, that also is in the Torah. Everything in the C and everything else that follows is really not explicit in the Torah, or maybe not in the Torah at all, but is actually pretty core to what it means to follow the laws of kosher. And we will have to handle those next time because we are out of time for today. So we'll pause now. Thank you for watching. Thank you. We're just going to stop the thing. Okay.